Uh, Hello, in this video, I'm going to discuss different aspects of autism spectrum disorder. So, to begin with, what is it actually? We call it as a spectrum because this is just my opinion from different sources. No two individuals who has the diagnosis of autism is going to exhibit the same symptom and abilities. And another thing is that even an individual, if we take one individual who has this diagnosis of autism, is not going to exhibit lower ability to function in all areas of life, or sometimes we can see them functioning at a higher level in certain areas and they will lack in certain other areas. So there are a variety of abilities and symptoms that we can see in the individuals who have this. But again, one common thing which is taken as a diagnostic criteria is interaction and communication when it comes to autism. This is just an overview I just gave to start with. Now, moving on to how it is diagnosed. It actually begins when the need to interact, no? Like when we see a baby who's 1 or 1.5, the baby can smile back, say bye bye to other person, or when we say them hi, they'll just come and give the hand. So we can observe lack in these things at the age of 1. But sometimes this we won't note that much, just a baby, right? But again, if you ask me if this is what will happen for everyone who's having an autism diagnosis, it's not like that. Sometimes we can see regression of skills also. We can see them neurotypical, being neurotypical till the age of 2. They would have said bye, they would have said hi. The baby would have come when we called them. And a lot more other interactions would have been very much neurotypical, but there is also a regression of the skills at the age of 2. So, how is the formal diagnosis done? Is first, maybe we observe some differences at home, or pediatrician themselves, no, when we take them to the vaccination or any regular checkup. Since they have seen so many other babies, they may say this little differences in the kid that they see. No, this child is not having an eye contact like a neurotypical child. Sometimes they may say it will develop or it's not a bigger issue, but it is necessary to note certain things that is said by the pediatrician because they have the experience of noticing different behaviors like every day they see in the clinic. So it all begins there. The first symptom that they say is lack of name call response. So, name call response, it begins even before the age of 1. When we call their name, they know their name because from the birth or right from the day they were named, they have been called or they have been said by that name, or any other, if they have pet name or anything, we would have called them by that. So, when we call that name, suddenly by ninth month itself, most babies will turn. But if in case but 1 or 1.5, that will come as an instant reaction. But what happens is some times when this is that criteria, as I said, even if we call them for 20 to 30 times, there won't be a response to the name. That is the first check that is done in the clinical psychologist room also. So after the pediatrician notes, he or she refers us to the clinical psychologist for a formal diagnosis. Then there again there is a list of questionnaire given, like will they turn to the name, will they respond to the command, will they wave bye, and all that. So this is how it starts with. But sometimes when there is a milder symptom, like all this will be normal, but there will be a difficulty in interaction and communication. Like we can see inconsistency in turning. Like when we ask them, will they turn? We'll say like sometimes uh, he or she will turn, and sometimes he won't. So yes, This is how the diagnosis is done. And symptoms, like symptoms first is that, like I said before, there is a difficulty to interact and communicate. So when you like a normal baby, when you give a block or something to play with, the baby is going to play, like, and there will be a back and forth communication, like give me, take, put this there, put it in the box. Even this thing, simple thing like put it in the box, sometimes it will be difficult for a person who has an autism diagnosis. Oh, in therapy, these are the things that is considered. Like first day of the therapy, when we take the child, what they do is they see how the child is responding to the communication. And again, what happens is that sometimes children with autism, they respond very well to people who are familiar to them, but they won't respond to a new person. Oh, these are the other things that is there. And in some cases, there are also children who are verbal, children or even adults, no? Here what happens is the other symptoms, like I said before, that won't be noted much, because they may turn verbal when they are like 2 or 2.5. They may start saying rhymes, or they may say anything that we teach them. But again, if we note, they won't have this proper general communication. Like if we ask them how was your day, they'll just reply nice and go. But a neurotypical child of 3 may say like how was your day. When we ask them what happened in the school, they may frame up a sentence story to say. But this is like, we can say that each child is different, but not like that. Interaction and communication is something which is the major part of functioning in life as we grow. So it begins by step, and each person interacts and communicates differently. That is how it is with a person who has an autism diagnosis also. But this functional ability to thrive in this world has to develop. That is where the therapy focus of the therapy should be. And again, if we find the child is non-verbal, the child is not using words to communicate, child is having difficulty in words to communicate, we must go for other alternative communication also. We should not think like my child is not going to talk if I am going to think of alternative communication. Nothing like that. So an expert of speech therapy who has the proper qualification would never say this word like if you go for alternative communication, the child is not going to communicate and you have to force the child to say the word. Oh, this is not proper therapy. So there is something called as alternative communication devices or augmentative communication devices. It depends upon the ability of the child. If the child is good with finding the pictures, we may use picture exchange communication system. Or sometimes we see hyperlexia being present in some children who have autism. They learn to read earlier, like 2.7 or 2.11. They start reading smaller words, and by the time they are 5 or 5.5, they can even write sentences. We see such children also, who giving them an opportunity to communicate alternatively, it makes a greater difference. Sometimes such children have also developed speech in later part of their life also. But sometimes we can also see people being non-verbal all through their life, but they have the ability to communicate alternatively. Again, sometimes what happens is there is a mistake some people do, some even experts do. They confuse it with intellectual disability when there is a lack of speech. So how is it different from intellectual disability is that we have to see the cognitive skills. Cognitive skills, is it as per the age? So, for example, if it is a child of 2-year old, can the child comprehend simple things like, come on, this is a ball? And if you ask the child, where is a ball? A child with autism may not point and say this is a ball, but they can take the ball. Or sometimes what happens, they won't point the real ball, but if there is a book and if you have balls over there, ball, or if you have different pictures, they will point correctly on the book. So these are certain things which have to be noted so that we don't mistake them as intellectually disabled or not functioning up to the age. And another thing is sensory issues. Sometimes because of the sensory issue, they will have difficulty to sit in a place. Not necessarily it is hyperactivity. They won't have this tolerance to sit in a chair for a longer period of time, and that is where the occupational therapy focuses on how to make them listen, understand, attend, and obey, and have this control over the body to sit in a place and do a work. This is what occupational therapy focus. And next thing is that it is not that easy to just like, it's not a mission. Just you put the switch and they will sit and they'll work. Like if you give this therapy, suddenly next day you will see the difference. Not like that. It's a process over a year or 2 years or something. And again, sometimes we see them moving here and there because they're not having the words to say what they want. And the thoughts, they'll be thinking a lot of things, but they won't have the words, so they will be moving, they'll go everywhere. And another thing that is seen most importantly is that we don't understand why they are moving, but when we observe why they are moving and go behind them, or when we ask them the leading questions, where do you want to go, they pull your hand and they take you to that place. So as babies like 2.5, a normal baby, I can't use the word normal, we can say it is neurotypical. When you ask the baby, you take them on the road, they will say like, what do you want? If there is a cake shop, they'll point to the cake shop. But this pointing skill is lacking over here. So what happens, if there is a cake shop and the child wants to go to the cake shop, the child either runs, the child won't have the sense of danger. So this has to be taught in the therapy also. Either runs directly to the cake shop, or they may pull you to the cake shop, and there is no back and forth communication. Next, so having said all this, I am moving on to what a proper therapy should look like. So a proper therapy is about being firm with the child. There shouldn't be any abuse, or the therapist shouldn't leave the child to do anything that they want. That is not proper. Sometimes what happens is that therapist will say that I'm going to leave the child as he or she likes, and we can't see any progress over there, and we'll see the therapist is so sweet. Because as a parent we don't know anything in the beginning, but when it is possible, the progress is always possible. It is not like there is a diagnosis of autism and the child is not going to do anything. Progress is always possible. What should be the focus? There should be a proper goal where all the child lacks and what is necessary to function. Some therapies, they focus on controlling the stims, like they hold the hand when the child is going to flap, or when the child is going to fidget or something, they are going to hold the hand. But is it actually necessary? If this behavior is disturbing the attention of learning, we can stop them from doing. But in some cases, what happens is that I have heard children saying that when I stamp like my feet, tap my feet lightly, I can listen to the lecture more clearly. There are some kids who have said that, but my teacher will say I shouldn't tap the feet. It's a sensory need. wherein the child is tapping but the child is listening. So we have to see whether the child is listening to what we are saying. If the child is not listening, there should be a gentle, we should not force the child and say don't tap your feet. Gently, this is just an example that I said. Again, it also depends on the age of the child. You can't say a 2-year-old child to sit still and focus, listen. 2-year-old child, even a neurotypical 2-year-old child won't understand that, or even a 3-year-old. So therapy should be age appropriate. And I actually support early intervention, because earlier it is seen and earlier it is done, life becomes easier for them in future, and they learn the appropriate social behavior, because society has norms and that is how it functions. And they also need to lead an independent adult life after they are 18 if they are capable. So that has to be the focus. So again, as I said, stimming, there should be like what has to be taught is that when they grow, when the proper sensory integration therapy is given, it will reduce. You can't see an adult with ADHD spinning around like a 3-year-old. So that's how the therapy works. It is slow, steady progress. Again, therapy is about speech therapy, occupational behavior therapy, and sometimes there are also alternative therapies like based on the interest of the child. It goes like an art or a dance, music. That is not so evolved over here in our country, and there is not much awareness about alternative therapy because therapy in itself is costly and can't afford for everything. So again, what happens is that it's a socio-economic status issue. If the child from a well-to-do family has a diagnosis of autism, it is entirely different from a child who's from a family which is of lower economic status, because in our country we don't have this insurance coverage or government funding proper therapies. We have government hospitals who are providing therapies, yes, but quality, it's like 50-50 only. We can't say that. So even in private sector it is the same. It's not like all the private sector therapies are very good, and there are also fake therapists, and even the qualified therapists are also doing some mistakes. So yeah, now I could end this with some of my experiences. So I have a child. He is 5 years old now. He was diagnosed when he was 2. What happened is, in my case, it's regression of skills. He got the words, like he started to speak when he was about, speak in the sense amma, appa. By he was 11th month, he said this word, first word amma. Then slowly this small words came up, like illa, vena, iniki, like that. So simple words came off. No, S didn't come, no came, come, like that, like 10 words or so. Then there was this lockdown. He was 1.5. After we took for the vaccination at that time, and that was the time my doctor, he told that child, he said hi to the child, he did like this, but eye contact was somewhere else, it was not with the doctor. So, and again, he was just 1.5, but he was able to solve all the puzzles, like there were some puzzle pieces and he solved it. So my doctor, he suspected something called as high functioning autism, which was not heard at that time for me, even though I did psychology And I know about autism spectrum disorder, but again, now what the experts are saying, that we should not differentiate between high functioning, low functioning, such that, because some may function high, like I said in the beginning of the video, some functions at higher level in some skills and they have difficulty in other. So it's just autism spectrum disorder, the diagnosis is given. That is, they say high functioning because the IQ is normal. When the IQ is normal, they say it. But it is not necessary that since the IQ is normal, the child is going to interact normally. So that was that start. But since it was locked down and he was just 1.5, I didn't bother much. And he started to speak also. So, yeah. Then when he was about 2, second birthday, he even said happy birthday. Whose birthday? My. He even said that. And when we sang this song, Old MacDonald's, he even said the next word, E-I-E-I-O. So we didn't bother much. So these are the skills that a doctor also asked. If this is all present, it's okay. But suddenly after the age of 2, there was regression. He stopped saying Amma and Appa, and he even went into the cupboard and he sat inside. He didn't respond to the name after being called even so many times. Then there was a diagnosis, because in the office, when they called him like 40 times or 30 times, there was no response. Then they called me back. We have different names. His real name is Hanish, but I call him Krishna. And there's also different names we call. So when I went there and the clinical psychologist told me to call him, I called him Hanish. And the next word she asked me was, do you call him by any other name? Call that name. I called him Krishna. Then there was a subtle response, not proper response. So, yeah. But thing is, to the voice the child should turn. That is what was an expectation. Any voice coming from any side, no human voice, the child has to turn. That wasn't present. When he was about 2.1. So then other thing what they saw, that they told me to go outside the room. There was 2 psychologists there. They told me to go outside the room. The one was sitting inside. The one accompanied me. The child didn't bother. Child was just playing with the puzzles. A normal behavior is that, expected behavior is to turn. Or when the mother is going, I have to go. And what the therapist directed me is that I should tell the child and go. Hanish, I'm going. I told that. But the child didn't respond. So then there was therapy. We started in a special school only at that time. Within a month, I was able to see the difference. Like when he, like how he was at 1.5, he came back. When I started to call his name, he responded. And then we had different therapies. I did have worse experiences with the therapist also. Like when I changed to another occupational therapy, the therapist didn't understand how to behave with a 2-year-old child. She used the word shut up when the child had meltdown. So that is where we have to note, like this is a red flag. A 2-year-old child should not hear this word shut up from a therapist. And anyways, the child is not going to know the meaning. But to work with the child, there is a criteria. Because the child should feel the warmth. And she even dragged him by one hand and moved all that. Then we had a shift to another therapy center. After the complaint went to the center owner, I didn't want to fight, because when you're going to fight, you're going to lose the time you have for the therapy. So I accepted their apology and went back. And in this therapy center, I was allowed in. This is the right therapy. So when you're with the child, you know what is happening to the child. So here what happened is, as I said, the therapist was firm. We had both the therapies in the same center, occupational speech and behavior evaluation. They told the child does not need behavioral therapy because he is cooperating in occupational therapy, and he is also so small. He was like 2.8 only at that time. we started, and I saw progress. He started to club in words like what happens. That time it was online pre-KG, so he saw the screen and he was able to say the names of the classmates also. But again we faced regression of skills, like after his third birthday, certain things which he got at 2 he lost also. The speech which came up, it went. And after which certain other therapies we started, like when he was after a little bit, maybe because of the change of school and like change from home to school or anything like that, that also affected him. But after that he was put into an inclusive school. So when it is an inclusive school, they understand how the child is, what is it, because they have the experience of seeing children starting coming to them at the age of 3 and going at the age of 18. Inclusive school in the sense they are going to be with the mainstream students. So it's like that. Now he is 5. So he has got the ability to write now. We have to just support the wrist because some lack of fine motor abilities, and the letters are very big. When we ask him some questions like how was your day, he writes nice, good, and this is the progress. And yeah, this is some experiences of mine. I think I have covered whatever is expected or whatever I wish to say. And one point what I wish to say at the end is that the society that we live in needs to be more inclusive and accept the children within their places. Like what difficulty is that, yes, it may be difficult when the children are making noises, but all the children are going to make noises. And in Chennai we have this metro work going on, and this child shouting is not more than that. So yeah, and basically leave alone the society, the education has to become more inclusive, and there should be an understanding of the needs of the children. Even not only the school, some get the ability to come into the colleges also. And yeah, this is what I wish to convey. When there is an inclusive education, children get better because they get a chance to see another person behaving. But it is not that easy to say, like I can say, but there should be some, like at least in the younger ages, in the play school or schools, there shouldn't be any discrimination, so that the children feel included within themselves and they feel the confidence. Because these children, they normally withdraw, and if we are going to withdraw them even more, they are going to be in their own space. So if we want them to come out of their space, it's the parent that they need. Society doesn't want them, or society won't understand much, but as a parent we know, as a parent, as a therapist, as an educator, they have to consider the children who are neurodivergent also, because they are also the part of this world. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.